Welcome to another Quran study. God willing, today we'll be reading from Surah 36, verse 70. Let's all seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Surah 36, YS Yasin, verse 70. To preach to those who are alive and to expose the disbelievers. Have they not seen that we created for them with our own hands livestock that they own? And we subdued them for them. Some they ride and some they eat. They derive other benefits from them as well as drinks. Would they not be appreciative? So these verses are talking about the Quran. The previous verse talking about the Quran was not poetry and Muhammad was not a poet, and this was a formidable proof from God. The profound Quran, God calls it, to preach to the people who are alive and to expose the disbelievers. So the Quran exposes disbelievers because when they're invited, when they disbelieve, they actually expose themselves. So before that, for example, someone might be a believer, but they disbelieve after believing. When they see the truth, when they see the new information, and they decide to reject it. And then God talks about, have they not seen how we created for them with our own hands livestock that they own, and we subdued them for them. Some they ride and some they eat. So, the livestock really, maybe some of us, we don't pay attention, right? But when you really reflect on it and think about it, how God has, first of all, created all this livestock for us, and how it is designed is truly amazing, and shows obviously a creator behind it and an intelligent design behind it. The fact that, God allows them to be subdued so easily, they don't fly away from you or run like a tiger or something, would. They're very easy to catch and they're very easy to domesticate, they don't bite people, things like that, they're harmless, they're friendly to humans, and they do what they're commanded to do. All they do is just eat all day, grass, so that they can produce milk and produce meat. They're not like super active like zebras or something like that, where they would run so hard that all their meat would be so difficult and hard to consume. But they're just more like laid back animals. They just barely move around to eat when they need to, for the most part. And that's how we get all the soft meat and everything, and delicious nutritious milk and all of that stuff, and how milk is separated out and for us. That's obviously another part of it, and how God allows us to ride these animals, the horses, the mules, the donkeys, all these rides, and God allows us to ride all these animals too. This is truly amazing, how God has created these animals for us, and definitely it's proof for us that God exists, and how He has a divine plan based on which He's sending these animals one after the other for us, for our consumption, to help us. And then God says they derive other benefits from them as well as drinks. Like I talked about the drinks, the milk, you have like smoothies, you have coffees and teas and all these kinds of things every day. Of course, we would not be able to enjoy those things the same way if these drinks weren't available. And so how nutritious they are and so many other benefits that they have, we use them for cooking and so many other things. So all of these are benefits, and God says they should be appreciative, right? The fact that God has given us these things, we have to appreciate God. If we didn't have these things, and but we have been given these things, just even without asking God, so we should be thankful to God and appreciate the things that God has given us. God will now continue reading verse 74. Powerless idols, they set up beside God other gods, perhaps they can be of help to them. On the contrary, they cannot help them, they end up serving them as devoted soldiers. Therefore, do not be saddened by their utterances. We are fully aware of everything they conceal and everything they declare. So God talks about the powerless idols, how people have set up these powerless idols, whether it's Muhammad or Jesus or statues or saints, or the religious scholars, all these idols that people have set up, whatever those idols maybe could be their gods. I mean, they're all powerless, right? Because all the power belongs to God alone. And if you think that anything besides God can help you or harm you in any way, I mean, you're basically, idolizing those things or those people or those entities. And so we have to be very careful that we understand that these are all powerless idols that cannot help people. And God says, on the contrary, they end up serving them as devoted soldiers. And so if you see, like, for example, people who idolize these scholars and preachers, for example, I mean, they end up, serving these religious leaders, as the devoted soldiers. And eventually, I mean, really, in essence, they're basically worshiping Satan, right? And so they end up basically, serving as a soldier for Satan, right? I mean, so this is obviously not going to end up well for them, God says. And God says, do not be saddened by their utterances. We are fully aware of everything they conceal and everything they declare. So, of course, when someone's working as a devoted soldier for an idol or for Satan, he's not going to have good things to say about God. He's not going to have good things to say about the believers. And that's why God is telling us to not be saddened by their utterances, because things that they say, if you take it to heart, obviously it will make you sad, right? But the idea is that we should remember that it is not, like God says, it is not you that they reject. It is God that the wicked people they disregard, in His revelations. And so we have to bear that in mind when we talk to these people or come across their utterances or engage in sort of a dialogue which results in them saying these hurtful or bad utterances against God and against the believers. God says, verse 77, does the human being not see that we created him from a tiny drop? Then he turns into an ardent enemy. He raises a question to us while forgetting his initial creation. Who can resurrect the bones after they had rotted? Say, the one who initiated them in the first place will resurrect them. He is fully aware of every creation. He is the one who creates for you from the green trees fuel which you burn for light. Is not the one who created the heavens and the earth able to recreate the same? Yes, indeed, he is the creator, the omniscient. All he needs to do to carry out any command is to say to it, be, and it is. Therefore, glory be to the one in whose hand is the sovereignty over all things, and to him you will be returned. And then the footnote says, it is noteworthy that the geometrical value of Rashad 505 plus the geometrical value of Khalifa 725 plus the surah number 36 plus the numbers of verses 83 produces a total that is a multiple of 19, which is 1349 or 19 times 71. Also, surah 36 is the number 19 among the 29 initial surahs. And there's more details on in surah 36 in Appendix 1. But this surah is, pretty much most of it is about the messenger of the covenant, relating to him. And that's why these mathematical proofs are there about surah 36 that are, directly correlated with the messenger of the covenant. Now, God says that does a human being not see that we created him from a tiny drop, then he turned into an ardent opponent? So, and they question recreation, right? They question resurrection. And they question it in a way that obviously they don't believe in it. And God is just reminding these people, like, have you thought about, rhetorically, of course, have you thought about what you were before? I mean, if you just think about for a second, you see all these humans in front of you, and you think for a second, like, imagine if right now in front of your eyes, You saw a drop of water turn into a person, like let's say in 5 seconds, right? Wouldn't it be amazing? Like how you'd be amazed, but the fact that this is a slow process, doesn't change anything, right? But to conceptualize it, just think about it. In 5 seconds, all these drops of water in front of you, and they just turn into humans. You're gonna think it's magic, right? But this is how God creates all of us. And so these people, they don't think that this is how we were all created, right? You and I, all of us, every human being was just a tiny drop, and then God created into a person. How does a drop of liquid, right, know it's gonna have to turn into a person with all these parts, with all these features, the whole system, right? Can we ever create anything ourselves from scratch that can do that, or anything similar? No. We have to use building blocks from life, right, somehow to be able to generate life, right? Like, for example, cells or something. But this is God's creation. A cell is a creation of God. All these things are God's creation. How He has instructed, put all this information in a tiny drop for it to know what it needs to be. And basically, God is the one who's controlling everything, right? So we can explain it however way we want, but God is the one who's doing it. And God is the one who's making or causing that drop of water to become into a person. And then if we were just a drop of water, and God is the one who created us, why can't He do it again? For each person, He can do it again, right? Because He has all the knowledge, He has the information, He has your genetics, He has everything, He knows where your soul is, all of those things. So why do people think that they were nothing at some point, God says, right? And now they're a talking, walking, thinking human person. So why can't they think that someone who's able to do that is going to be able to do that? You can put, the people who talk about evolution, for example, how do they define the existence of a soul? Like, you can put all these organic materials like water in a cup or whatever it is that you think it is, right? You put all those chemicals yourself and put them in a cup, but they're never going to become a human or any kind of creation for that matter, right? If you put all those elements together and start mixing them, like for example in a beaker, right, they're never going to turn into life of a human being like the way God creates them, right? And so people don't think about that, obviously, when they question their recreation. But of course, when you reflect on it, yeah, of course, God did it the first time. Of course, He'll do it again, right? He does it for every person, and people are born every day, and nothing is more easy for God to do. God says it's even easier for Him to create multiple people rather than just one person, right? So in verse 80 says, He's the one who creates for you from the green trees fuel which you burn for light, right? And so God is the one who creates the fuel, from the trees that allow us to create light. Allows us to have natural gas, allows us to create electricity and all kinds of resources for our energy. And God is the one who creates all of that. Is not the one who created the heavens and the earth able to recreate the same? Of course. And it says, yes, indeed, He's the creator, the omniscient. All He needs to do, carry out something to say to it, be, and it is. Right? It is so simple. And that's why, God be glorified, and to Him belongs all sovereignty, as it says, and we will all return to Him. So God willing, I will continue reading Surah 37, the Arrangers, As-Safat. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. The arrangers in columns, the blamers of those to be blamed, the reciters of the messages. Your God is only one, the Lord of the heavens and the earth and everything between them, and Lord of the East. We have adorned the lowest heaven with adorning planets. And then the footnote says, every heavenly body rises on the planet Earth and sets. Every rise is called East. And then 37:6 says, we live in the innermost and the smallest universe. The jinns are confined to this universe. So this surah is titled The Arrangers, which is referring to the angels. And they are the blamers of those to be blamed. They are the arrangers in columns. They arrange the people into columns. And they recite messages that God needs to have recited for us. And God is telling us that our God is only one God. The Quran is telling us our God is only one God. He's the Lord of the heavens and the earth and everything between them, basically. And it talks about the Lord of the East, right? So it mentions in the footnote that every heavenly body which rises on planet Earth and sets, every rise is called East. So every rise is called East, right? So that's why he's the Lord of every rise or Lord of the East, and that just doesn't mean that there's multiple Easts like on the in the directional map. So, but it means it's just wherever these heavenly bodies rise from, and God is the Lord of that. And basically, everything has submitted to God. Everything's going based on God's law, and so all of these heavenly bodies, including the motion of the earth. That causes us to see some of these heavenly bodies rising, and the motion of the other heavenly bodies. All of that is divinely controlled by God. And God says He guarded the heavens against every devil. They cannot spy on the high society. They get bombarded from every side. So the angels that God has put, God has put the angels, specifically some of the angels, in the lowest universe, which is where also the earth is. And so this universe is surrounded by so many different heavenly bodies. God says all the stars and galaxies and stuff, and they're also guarded by God, by His angels. And so the jinns are not permitted to leave that parameter. If they ever try to leave it, they get attacked by projectiles, as God says in the Quran. And so they're not able to, they're just confined to the lowest universe. They cannot go beyond the lowest universe. And that's why they cannot go to spy on the high society, because if they're able to go up, they'll be able to go all the way to the seventh universe and be able to go in the high society and spy on things like, for example, maybe they might be able to get information about the future events, or when certain things are going to happen, or other information that they're not supposed to access. So it's beyond limits for them, and that's why God says, telling us that it's a heavily guarded space. Verse 9 says, "They have been condemned, they have incurred an eternal retribution. If any of them ventures to charge the outer limits, he gets struck with a fierce projectile." So this is, the jinns, right? And how, if any of them, that we're talking about a really vast amount of space, right? Imagine how big the lowest universe is, like the circumference, if you were to imagine how vast that would be. But not even a single jinn can pass through that. It's heavily guarded. And so God has all these powerful angels that are able to do that, you can't even have a small hole or small slip of any kind, even. So that it's all fully guarded by God. So you can imagine how amazing that system would be. And then God says, "Ask them, are they more difficult to create or other creations? We created them from wet mud. While you are awed, they mock. When reminded, they take no heed. When they see proof, they ridicule it. They say, 'This is obviously magic. After we die and become dust and bones, do we get resurrected? Even our ancient ancestors?' Say, 'Yes, you will be summoned, you will be forcibly summoned. All it takes is one nudge,' whereupon they stand up looking. They will say, 'Woe to us! This is the day of judgment. this is the day of decision that you used to disbelieve in. Summon the transgressors and their spouses and the idols they worshipped beside God, and guide them to the path of hell. Stop them and ask them, why do you not help one another? They will be on that day totally submitting. So God says about the disbelievers again here that, these people, like, while you are looking at these proofs and you're actually awed and you're amazed and surprised and, just speechless, but these people are actually ridiculing it and mocking it, right? I mean, imagine something that that is so awesome and so amazing and mind-blowing is something so little in someone's eyes that he's mocking and ridiculing it, like belittling it in such a way that he can't even understand, like, any part of it. And so they're divinely prevented from all of that because they don't deserve to be guided. And, but this is based on their own decision. And God says when they see their proof, they ridicule it and they say, this is obviously magic. So first they see the proof, they say, oh, this is magic, right? Even if they see things about it that are amazing, that they cannot explain, they're just thinking that it's some kind of a trick, right? That they're playing on people, like, and this is amazing because when they see on the day of judgment, they will regret that time when they just were laughing it all off and just joking about it and cracking, all these, jokes and the ridicule that they did, all these things that they said. I mean, they will all come back to haunt them on the day of judgment. And the fact that they cannot believe in the hereafter and the resurrection, it becomes a big obstacle for everybody, right? I mean, this is what stops the people from believing is just the fact that God is going to resurrect us. I mean, if you just, like, we've touched on that earlier too, but, like, I mean, if you just think about how God creates you now, you will have no doubt, like, as a submitter, to understand that, yeah, God will do it, I mean, think about all these things that God has created. Why is it difficult for God to recreate? I mean, people are cloning things here and there all the time. There's so much we can see now, right? But aside from that, the fact that God has all of that information about us, that He has created us. I mean, imagine someone who has the ability to create a human being. Why would they not be able to repeat that creation, right? It's like, it's like you create a program. Why can't you reboot it, right? It's very simple. And for God, it's so easy. It's easier than creating us the first time, actually, because everything has already been prepared for our creation, right? And so praise be to God. I mean, this is something that stops people from believing such a trap. But God says they'll be forcibly summoned, and all it'll take is one nudge, and everybody will get up, And really, this should really scare people, right? Because on the day of judgment, they'll be horrified when this happens. While they're mocking it in this world right now, they'll be horrified. And God says, on the day of judgment, summon their transgressors, their spouses, and the idols that they worshipped. So the idols that they worshipped, all of those idols were the real good people that were idolized, or the people that were leaders and stuff. All the idols will be summoned on that day, and then people will be questioned, and then on the day of judgment, God says, stop them and ask them, why do you not help one another? And they will be, on that day, they will be just completely submitting, God says, They will not be ridiculing or mocking or insulting people or saying, well, I can do this, or I can go to a bigger heaven if I want than so-and-so, or anything like that. I mean, this obviously, everything will just be very crystal clear they'll know that, people who are going to hell, they will know that they're going to hell. So they will not really be, in their real senses, in that sense, like the evil self that they are, on that day they will just submit because they won't have any other choice. Mutual blaming. They will come to each other, questioning and blaming one another. They will say to their leaders, "You used to come to us from the right side." They will respond, "It is you who were not believers. We never had any power over you. It is you who were wicked. We justly incurred our Lord's judgment. Now we have to suffer. We misled you only because we were astray. Thus, thus together they will all partake of the retribution on that day. This is how we requite the guilty." So we see how the mutual blaming happens, right? I mean, and they're just equally responsible for misleading other people as well as misleading themselves, and the other people too. They have been misled, but they're also misleading other people, and it's like a chain effect that has gone. So anybody who misleads someone ends up misleading another person, more than likely, and all these people will be just blaming each other. So just blaming and fighting and beating each other and cursing each other. This is going to be their life every single day. And God says that this is the dialogue. God has witnessed it, right? If you think about it, so God already knows this is the conversations that happen in the hereafter. Imagine being surrounded by someone blaming you over and over. We can't take it for 5 minutes if someone blames us, right? But on the day of judgment, it's just going to be, that's all they're going to have is among all the torment and the torture, all of the mutual blaming, and cursing and fighting every day. There's not going to be a single moment where you get a break. So just think about that, right? People use the word hell so loosely in this world, but the real hell that they will see on that day, that's going to be eternal, of course, they will understand what the word hell actually means, may God protect us from all of that. And so God will continue reading about the reason why they were in hell. So verse 35 says, the first commandment, when they were told, La ilaha illallah, there is no other God beside God, they turned arrogant. They said, shall we leave our gods for the sake of a crazy poet? In fact, he has brought the truth and has confirmed the messengers. Most assuredly, you will taste the most painful retribution. You are requited only for what you have done. Only God's servants who are absolutely devoted to Him alone will be saved. They have deserved provisions that are reserved specifically for them. All kinds of fruits, they will be honored in the gardens of bliss. On furnishings close to one another, cups of pure drinks will be offered to them. So on the contrary, the believers will have an amazing destiny, as we know, and the people who are in hell, will be miserable. And why are they in hell? These verses tell us because when they were told that worship God alone, that there's no other God besides God, that's when you saw the arrogance. That's when you saw the evil come out, because they were not happy. They're not having it. Either they wanted themselves to be a god, or they wanted, someone else to be a god. They wanted to idolize their spouse or their work or whatever. So when they're told to just worship God alone, make God your God, whether it's through an idol or not, or ego, whatever it is, right? When they were told to worship God alone, la ilaha illallah, and uphold the message of God alone, obey God and His messenger, don't follow your personal opinion, these people became arrogant. And you see the arrogance come out, of these people. They became arrogant, and they said, shall we leave our gods for the sake of a crazy poet? So they think that Muhammad was a crazy poet, right? This is something that obviously they won't say, right, with their lips. They might say they believe in the Quran, but deep inside their hearts, that's what they think. They think that Muhammad was a crazy poet, right? And that's why they don't believe in this Quran, right? I mean, what prevents someone from believing in the Quran if they truly believed it was from God? They would actually follow it, try to understand it, and submit to it. But they think it's a work of some person who lost his mind and was like somewhat poetic, right? And came up with these verses that just rhyme with each other, right? And that's why we know some people have also tried to, write some challenge to write something similar, but obviously they can't because there's also the literary challenge and they have the mathematical challenge. But nevertheless, I mean, they think that Muhammad was a crazy poet, right? That's the reality of it. All those people who don't believe in the Quran and who didn't believe that Muhammad was a messenger, and the messengers that came after him, like Dr. Rashad Khalifa as a messenger too. I mean, if they became disbelievers at that point, they didn't want to worship God alone, and they thought he was crazy too. And so we know that God is saying that these people who rejected the messengers, even though the messengers came and to confirm the previous messengers that they actually believed were messengers, God says these people will be given the most painful retribution for disbelieving. And then God says that only God's servants, and this is repeated throughout the Quran over and over again, right? Is only God's servants who are absolutely devoted to Him alone are saved, right? So you have to be absolutely devoted to God alone in order for you to be saved by God. And this is something that we have to remember, that only God's servants who are absolutely devoted to Him alone will be saved. And God says, for these people, there will be provisions that are reserved specifically for them, right? So, like, actually reserved for these people. I mean, imagine that there are certain things that are reserved specifically for certain people. I mean, these are very, very special in heaven. And I mean, we have the allegorical descriptions that they will be on furnishings close to one another. They will have all kinds of fruits therein, that they will be honored. I mean, imagine someone. I mean, it's just amazing to just even think about it. But it says cups of pure drinks will be offered to them. I mean, and the other verses in the Quran, God talks about how these drinks are. I mean, giving us allegories. But we understand, nevertheless, that the life of the hereafter for the believers is going to be far, far superior and more luxurious and more exquisite in every way, and happier and joyful than anything that any human being can ever experience in this world, right? And not even close. Like, we have to use allegories to even describe it, right? We can't even imagine. So obviously, this is something that is an incentive for us to clean up our act in this world. And so, God is reminding us that, we have the two alternatives. You have the bitter destiny, the bitter food, the never-ending misery, the torment, the torture, the blaming, the fighting, the beating, or you have this luxurious life with drinks, furnishings close to you, relaxing, beautiful, amazing destiny that's going to continue for eternity, right? So take your pick and work towards it, because God says the day of judgment is coming, right? And there's no doubt about it. He has created us now. He is going to create us again. There's no doubt about it. And we know the time when that's even going to happen, and it should give us all like chills, that all of that is going to happen. So we have to work towards it. We have to be dedicated and realize that it's certainly going to happen. And so if we have that certainty, we should be able to work towards it and decide the course of our life so that we can, be redeemed by God. So with this, God willing, I will end. And if you guys have any comments or any questions, feel free to ask and participate. Thanks.
Thank you.
Inshallah. Thank you.
Yeah, verse 40 of Surah 37, we see the importance, as well as a few verses before that about La ilaha illallah. That's the most important message, here for humans, especially coming from other religions that preach the worship of idols. Yeah, but verse 40, that I like that, because it's reminding us that we have to be absolutely devoted to Him alone. So only these people, will be saved, not people who are devoted to idols, or even if they're, partially devoted to God, that's still not good enough. I was telling somebody that one time, because they didn't see an issue with their idol. But I mean, this even includes too, devotion to worldly things as well. So it's a good reminder for us to keep, kind of like you were just saying at the end of the study. There's two destinations, and we could ask ourselves, which one do we want to go to? The gardens of bliss, or painful torment. Because yeah, the day of judgment is definitely coming. If humans knew, like, there was a meeting, for their work or something, let's say in like 2 years, where they're either going to get like all the money on earth, or they're going to lose everything they have. I mean, you can guarantee that they're going to prepare for that, for those 2 years. But when it comes to the hereafter, people struggle. A lot of people struggle in believing this, or putting it into perspective, kind of like that. So there's so many good reminders for us, and so much, profound wisdom for people. And if people, I think too, they naturally want to hear this stuff in the Quran, they'll naturally like it, because they'll see that it's the truth. Just like Surah 30, our verse 37 says, in fact, He has brought the truth, and confirmed the messengers. So, mashallah.
Yeah, thank God for all the livestock. I mean, we eat all the wholesome, highly nutritious food, all the proteins and everything. All the dairy and all the meat. I mean, gives. The like the yeah, I mean, main main foods for human survival, right? And also like chicken and stuff. These birds too. But all these, God has created for us, and we should be appreciative of these things by not just, thanking God, but also through our actions. But we should still acknowledge these things as we have them, every day. If God wanted, like, He could make them toxic, right? God makes them so easily accessible and so delicious, and gives us so many varieties of ways to cook them and season them. and have
Yeah.
all these different flavors.
Yeah, just even
Yeah.
like, if you think about the strength and power of like cows and stuff, how they, and the cows I didn't know, but recently,
Yeah.
y'all might have known, but they can run pretty fast. Like
Yeah.
they walk so slow and stuff, but I've seen some, or even some little baby calves run and they're super quick. But they're just really docile and yeah, they're very chill. They could easily
Yeah.
like make it so difficult for humans to even do anything with them just by kicking or running around or biting and stuff, but they don't do any of that.
Yeah, imagine that goat you made last night, you know? I mean, that wouldn't be possible if God
Yeah,
didn't create the goats for us.
yeah, exactly.
I showed
Yeah, it's a
John how to
variety
make
too.
goat, you know, curry, which is like a stir fry curry, you know? And mashallah, it was delicious.
Mashallah.
So, I mean, yeah, it just reminds us that, God has been so generous. Like we're prisoners, right? In this world and for a crime that we committed, and God is treating us, so good. We don't give. Nobody gives these types of foods to prisoners, right? They give them the worst kind of food usually, and God has given us, blessed us so generously in this world with so many blessings.
Exactly. Yeah, brother Abdullah said verses about resurrection are also about people who say, quote, we believe in the hereafter, but they
Yes,
subconsciously don't believe in it. They just lip service. They just do lip
inshallah,
service.
that's true. Exactly. I mean,
Yeah,
the fact that they don't actually become believers, shows that these people have doubts, and they don't actually, if they truly believed that God would guide them, I mean, this is what separates people from believing in the Quran alone and worshiping God alone is these things. They become, the reason why people become hypocrites is because they can't get over this idea that God can also recreate them too.
exactly.
Which is why it's important for us to examine ourselves, like, as people, as we're in submission, like, our faith should be more strengthened every day. Like, we shouldn't have these doubts overcoming us, and people going in a sort of like a regressive pattern where they're getting worse and worse, like, becoming complacent and thinking that we're submitters or we're just gonna be fine, and just taking it easy, instead.
Yeah, it's a good point because, if, like, putting things in perspective, we have a target on our back. So, and he's never going to take it easy, Satan. So, I mean, if he did, you could technically say, yeah, we could, but I mean, submitters, we don't even want to do that in the first place. But I mean, that's not the case, though, So it's just like if you had some type of in the worldly sense, some type of or you're playing like some type of video game, even you have somebody after you, you're not gonna like start like letting up or anything, you know. You're gonna be diligent because there's just too much at stake, too much at stake.
MashaAllah. Are there any other comments, questions from anyone? If there are any off-topic questions, maybe we can discuss them right now. Are there any?
Brother Abdullah said people in Turkey especially recite the Yasin Surah after people die, but we see that God says to preach to those who are alive.
Uh-huh. MashaAllah, that's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, they do that. They think Yasin is about, first of all, they think that Yasin is about Muhammad. MashaAllah, very good comment. Yeah, first they think Yasin is about Muhammad, but we know it's about the Messenger of the Covenant, most of it. And then especially think that they consider it very special and holy, you know. And then when people die, they recite for it, or if when people are in trouble, they recite it, you know.
I didn't know that. That's something new.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, if you search, you know, Surah Yasin, like there's stuff about it, like they have a bunch of hadiths about it, you know. It says Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, recite Yasin on those who are dying. The merit of, it says merit of this surah is, Yasin is that it brings, the merit of this is that Surah Yasin brings peace over the most excruciating processes. So they think that people who are dying, they might be suffering from torture or pain or whatever, and then they say Muhammad would recite it for people who were dying, you know, or transitioning into the hereafter. So to ease their pain, they would recite. And then they have so many hadiths, and they say, if you recite it every night and then you die as a martyr.
So wait, you just have to recite it every single night,
Yeah,
and
that's it.
then you automatically become a martyr, like
yeah.
when you die.
Yeah.
Well, how do they know that? What if somebody just doesn't do that, but then they say they do, and then they tell him he's a martyr, or they give him a celebration? Like he could have just made it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, but it's
like nobody was there to watch
it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And yeah, I mean, it's so funny, you know. Like the more you research all of the stuff that they've made, you know, like everything is just so ridiculous. Like,
yeah, it almost like it's funny. It's interesting because it almost becomes like so unbelievable. Like I don't know how these people actually believe in this. Like it just doesn't. It's like fairy tale, like imagination type nonsense, or not even a fairy tale, but it's just yeah, nonsense.
And these are the more educated people that are putting these articles online about the surah and stuff. Like, imagine the ones who are not on the internet. I mean, how foolish and stupid their ideas are, and the ridiculous stuff that they promote about all of this. It's just amazing. Yeah, they have so many benefits. There's many hadiths on the advantages. It also helps with world issues, it says.
It helps with like stuff going on in the world.
Yeah, it says
something.
it will. Well, it says anybody worldly things, like if anybody recites it, he will have all his requirements met for the day. And then it says also benefits them on the day of judgment. It says it says the people who recite it in a challenging situation, individuals who recite it will be given greatest position in heaven by God. It says
just imagine if it was that easy.
On the day of judgment, it says everybody appeals to God. In a challenging situation, individuals who recite it will be given a high position in heaven. So
you have to memorize. So you basically have to memorize it and be able to recite it.
Yeah, but in heaven, imagine, like, they're saying, like,
but in heaven,
you go, like, on the day of judgment, basically, what in heaven, I mean, like, on the day of judgment, you're there and people are imploring God, according to them. And so someone is smart enough to memorize the surah 36, and they recite it, and then they get a high rank in heaven.
Yeah, it just shows like how the Quran says, they have minds with which they do not think. Because if that were true, then that would negate the other laws and precedents in the Quran about the wicked and stuff. Because according to them, you could be the most wicked person, but wait, if you memorize Yasin, you're all good. But they don't think about it like that. It's real easy. They just don't. I guess wishful thinking or something. But then I don't even feel bad for them, because it's so ignoramus. Like you don't. It's not even like a super tricky trap. I guess it's like, okay, like, use your logic. Like, how does this make sense? Like with feeding the cat food or water, and then this woman got Jinnah. This hadith I heard from Mufti Ming, and I'm like, how do y'all even believe that? Like, it just doesn't make.
Right.
I guess these people are hypnotized too, like the Christians or something.
Exactly. All these people, they can't believe something so logical and powerful, but they can believe all this nonsense just based on hearsay without any proofs. So it shows, like, how much they actually use the intelligence that God has given them to actually think. Obviously, they're not very intelligent.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw a sign driving today on the highway. It says, it was a billboard. It said, "There's evidence for God," and it had like a picture of a child or a baby or something. And I was just thinking, I was like, yeah, like, probably the evidence they're talking about is not evidence, but we have the real evidence. At least it didn't say that Jesus or something, but they'll eventually, I'm sure, if you start talking to them, or you call that number or something, they're going to start telling you about.
Praise be to God.
We should put a billboard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, nowadays we can. Well, billboards are still useful. Yeah, but I mean, we can put digital billboards, right? The
Right.
online
Yeah, I think you can
stuff.
reach probably more people
Yeah,
with the digital and
you
tailor
can
it to
target.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, target, exactly.
like the flyers idea is good too. Just give people flyers.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Very good
the
idea.
Messenger of the Covenant talks about it. It's like go invite people in your neighborhood when you move to a new place to come for Quran study.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean now we can have online studies too, so maybe we can invite people to studies online.
Yeah, leave them a link too and stuff.
Yeah, but I think the mathematical miracle is amazing in terms of getting people's attention. People who
Unless you're
are looking
somebody
for.
who says, "Oh, I'm not good at math," LOL, or making
But
an
I mean,
excuse.
how good do you need to be in math to be able to
You
even see
don't.
it?
Yeah,
Like you need
exactly.
to, and you count.
Yeah, and it does the counting for you. I mean, you could do it.
Yeah.
But all you have to do is just read.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this person was just looking for an excuse to
I'm not good at
go to
math.
hell or
I'm not
not.
telling you to solve theorems in calculus.
Yeah. Yes, it's interesting. It's like I kind of didn't. I mean, I knew what I believed and kind of understood what the messenger would say, like in audio 4 or something, or 3, how people would just literally go through the hardest loopholes and hurdles and stuff to go to hell. And I'm like, well, how does that make sense? Nobody wants to go to hell. But when you think about it, like, I guess, or I'm starting to kind of see firsthand, it's like, okay, what does it hurt for you, for this person I'm talking to check, check out these links and stuff. And I'll be here to talk to you, or even on the phone or something if you need help. And it doesn't hurt anything. Like, it could only help you, and you're preaching a good message. But these people just refuse and come up with the most silly excuses, like, "Oh no, I'm not good at math, LOL, haha," or something. Like, wow, like you're really trying hard to
Ask them
not go to
how
hell.
many kids do you have? Say one or two, then say math.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's all I should have told this person that, but yeah, and
You're
it's
able
kind
to
of
add
like
the number of
farming,
your kids together.
right? Yeah, I've even done like some calculators. They were so easy, we have like a calculator in our hands and stuff, and so, but
Yeah, Brother Abdullah said, I recently heard someone who still insists Bismillah has 22 or 23 letters. Yeah, they still
yeah,
insist, the Arabs still insist that,
they're
it's not
seeing
19.
invisible. What do they messengers say? They're seeing invisible letters or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they deliberately want to go to hell, right? Yeah, they're so bad, such bad people. It's like you show somebody a color, like that's blue, but then the person's like, no, 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 that's yellow. When they know it's blue, it's like it's mind-boggling. They want to be their own God in the sense they want to have their own truth and they want to have like their opinions and stuff. They want to invent like their own truth and stuff to believe in and follow that. But like God says in the Quran, it said they like we give them the truth, but most of them hate the truth.
Yeah,
Just
mashallah.
unfortunate for these people.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of the number of letters, now we have the app, submission app that can also count letters for us. So you can also use it inside the browser. Go to submission.guide, or you can use it in the app So currently on screen I'm showing the app. So you go to like more menu, but on the web you can just click on geometrical value calculator and you type or paste the Arabic phrase or sentence or word, and it will tell you exactly how many letters it is.
MashaAllah. Yeah, I knew about the calculator. I forgot about this part.
Mm-hmm.
Other brother, in our group, he uses it a lot. He
Yes,
shows us
Suleman.
his picture.
Yes, mashallah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I want to start using it to
Mm-hmm.
try it out and stuff, and do
Mm-hmm.
it for my own sake, just
Mm-hmm.
to kind of see.
Yeah. Yeah, and it breaks down the letters for you too, so you can see how they look like, individually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm thinking maybe we should color code them also, every letter, so easy to distinguish each letter.
Yeah,
Just in
that
case.
would actually be pretty, especially for like someone who doesn't know, like me,
Mm-hmm.
any foreign languages. I'd have a
Mm-hmm.
hard time
Right, right.
distinguishing the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Mashallah.
Alright. So I guess if there are no other comments or questions from anyone, God willing, we can conclude the study. Right, sounds good. Alright, so thank you all for joining us. God willing, our next English Quran study would be on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.
God bless you all. Salam
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum.
Brother Abdullah said, God bless you
May
all.
Allah
Salam
bless you.
alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
God bless you. Salam alaikum.